Yo everybody, welcome to another episode of the 2-Point Conversion with Fish and Nootch. You know where to find us over at www.GameDayTigers.com. Y'all come check us out. Hey, LSU is now 1-1. Yeah, we skipped a podcast. It really honestly didn't have anything to do with how the first game went. I had some stuff come up, kind of emergency visit to the state of Mississippi. I had to go take care of some stuff with family. 12 days that turned into. It was supposed to be a 5-day trip. Turned into 12. I have yet to even watch LSU play a football game while I've been in Texas. But that's going to happen this weekend coming up. I'm looking forward to that. Nootch and I are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Game 1 a little bit. Not much. We're not going to dwell on it because we've already played Game 2. And that was a much more interesting game, even though it was against Grambling. Everybody says you can't learn anything by playing a team like Grambling. I understand that sentiment, but actually you can learn a lot. And we did. Nootch and I are going to discuss all of that as soon as we bring him in. So why don't we just go ahead and welcome in my buddy from down the bayou in Montague, Louisiana, living over in Odessa, Texas. He's been enjoying some cool, rainy weather in Odessa, Texas. Here I am in San Antonio, Texas, and we're still cooking over here. So y'all help me welcome in Nootch. What's happening, Nootch?
How's it going, Fish? That was a little better than last week.
Yeah, I'm in a better place to do this podcast than I was last week. I just couldn't make it work. It wasn't any fun either because it was a miserable podcast. We were discombobulated, disinterested.
Like LSU did?
Yeah, kind of like LSU looked against Florida State. Having a little over a week to process all that, I think FSU's pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're definitely one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the entire country.
Yeah, that's what they look like right now. And now we've been through 2 weeks of the season, so we can actually at least have a little bit of a standard. And they're up there, man.
It's a good ball club.
Well, LSU, on the other hand, is not what we thought, and honestly, not even what they thought they were.
Yeah, that's still disappointing that they actually said that out loud. But I agree. We're not who we would have liked to have been and not who we actually thought we were coming out of fall camp.
I made some notes. I sent them to you. I said the defense struggled against Florida State. Honestly, in parts of the game, they played the run pretty well. Honestly, they didn't really get the run game going until LSU was gassed.
Right.
But I know we were both, and along with every LSU fan that I know, very disappointed in how they used Harold Perkins. I mean, they basically took the best player on defense and neutered him.
I did the film study for that week, and it actually wasn't just him. It was, however you say the other edge rusher, Oguafu, I still can't say his name. I'm sorry.
Ovie Oghoufo.
Yeah.
Ovie Oghoufo.
Okay, yeah, that guy. It's the same thing. That's your 2 pass rushers. That's the guys who's supposed to generate the pressure, especially against someone like Jordan Travis. I mean, make him make a decision, make him do something other than sit back there and fix himself here. But we didn't do that at all against Florida State, and we did it a little bit more at least against Grambling. But we're still sitting here 2 games into the season with 1 sack, and I see message boards wondering if what's wrong with the D-line. I don't think it's anything wrong with the personnel. We're just not even attempting to generate pressure for some reason, and I don't quite understand why.
Looks like scheme. If we're going to talk about the D-line and any issue with the D-line, I have not been very impressed with Savion Jones, who we both thought was going to be a breakout player for the defense.
Right. Yeah, he hasn't caught my eye yet either.
I did rewatch the Grambling game, and I did so because so many freshmen played, and I don't want to get ahead yet, but I did notice there was some aggression that he showed, but he just looks a step slow, and it has to do with the fact that he put on a lot of weight. I don't think that's going to work out with him keeping the weight that he put on. They were trying to put on the weight, but it's too much. He reminded me of 2022 Allie Gay.
I guess so, because it is more of an intentional weight versus 2017 RGT.
But yeah, Florida State kicked our asses, and I knew it was going to be pretty bad. Early in the game, they had a angle on the quarterback, Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis, from behind him, and it was not a long pass, just a little short pass, but just the way the ball came out of his hands and pinpoint accuracy, catch it in stride, and our guys nowhere near. But just the way the ball came out of his hands, I was like, shit, he's good.
He's damn good, and that's why you have to do something to disrupt that. Anything.
The only time we got any momentum on defense was when we did rush him. We got an interception, and then a little while later, we had a near interception where we would have had the ball at about their 5-yard line, but we didn't make the catch. But yeah, that's the only time we really generated pressure.
Yeah, and I mean, the same thing really against Grambling, and then the Grambling, not to jump to the next game, but same thing. We didn't apply pressure, even though we actually had good coverage downfield. Their guys made plays early because we just allowed him to sit back and throw.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, you could definitely see scheme changes in the second game. I know we're playing Grambling in the second game, but the bottom line is you can absolutely learn things by how they scheme. You can learn things by comparing LSU players to other LSU players, and we'll get to Grambling in a little bit, and we did get to see a lot of that. I think LSU played 80 people in the game against Grambling. So, sticking with the FSU game real quick, and we'll get past it. LSU on offense couldn't get the run game established. Daniels was pretty solid. He missed some throws, but more than anything on offense, the drop passes killed us.
Yeah, there's a couple of big ones, drop passes and lack of a push up front. I think were the two big things that cost us the most.
The timing of those drop passes, they killed drives and they changed the momentum of the game. And then FSU just took over.
Right.
They outscored LSU 31-0 to start the second half.
Yeah, and FSU's not, I mean, we're talking about them being for sure a top 5 team. That's definitely not someone you can afford to make mistakes again. They're not someone you can hand momentum to with momentum killing drives and drops. You just can't do that against a team like that, and we did.
Yeah, and they took full advantage. So that's the FSU game. LSU lost 45-24. Really wasn't even that close.
No, I mean, we got that late touchdown to make the game a little bit closer, but I mean, we got beat soundly. Really, they took it to us, and that was it. There's nothing really we can. It was one of those games. The beating was sound enough that you can't just point to any one particular moment or play that swung it. It was just they outplayed us across the board.
Well, and like you mentioned, it was kind of discouraging to hear the coaching staff say this, but the bottom line is they came ready to play and we didn't.
The disturbing thing, which you and I did speak about last week, was that, we came into this game thinking it was going to be easy, and I think that was a big part of our problem. You can't do that, especially not against a team like Florida State. You got to be more focused than what we appeared to be.
Lesson learned, hopefully. Carry that forward. Second week, we played Grambling, and, there is the case to be made that, what are you going to learn from playing Grambling? Well, like I mentioned before, you're not going to learn whether you're good or bad against a particular team like Grambling. All you can do is go out there and play the game, and LSU on offense was very effective running the ball. We did see personnel changes, significant personnel changes early. They established dominance. We've seen LSU sleepwalk through some of those games. LSU scored touchdowns on their first 10 possessions.
Yeah. In fact, if you look at the box score, we came 21 yards away from gaining every single yard possible in the game. That last possession that we ended it on 4th down, we were at the 21. And prior to that, we made it into the end zone on every single possession other than that. So, yeah, we were 21 yards away from basic perfection.
Jay Bramblett didn't participate. He didn't have to.
Correct.
We didn't punt. All three quarterbacks saw action. Jaden Daniels was good, but again, even Brian Kelly, I was glad to hear him say this. He left some throws on the table.
Yeah, I haven't been able to rewatch. I did attempt to rewatch, and I was going to do the film study, but ESPN playback was really glitchy. Every time I tried to pause it to get my screen grabbed, it would black out the screen.
He passed for, I don't know how many yards. It wasn't 300, but he only played half the game, and he had 5 touchdown passes.
Yeah, he ended up with 269. 18 for 24, 269.
And 5 touchdown passes.
Yeah, early on, I was actually keeping track. His first 3 incompletions could all be considered drops. So I quit counting after 3, so he ended up with 6 total incompletions. I couldn't really tell you what the other 3 were, but his first 3 definitely could have been caught.
I mean, of course, with wide receivers like LSU has versus a Grambling defense, they're going to be pretty much running wide open.
Yeah, they were.
And they were, and we took advantage of it. We passed the ball across the middle of the field, short and deep, and scored touchdowns on both. I mean, pretty much anything we wanted to do on offense, we could do. Eventually, LSU started messing with the run game, and it didn't take long before they inserted Lance Hurd at right tackle.
Yep.
True freshman. I was wrong. I kind of understated his size the last time we spoke. He's 6'6", 340. Jesus.
Yeah, that's just a mountain. I couldn't even imagine having somebody that size on your squad. That's just ridiculous. And he's every bit as strong as what that size, he looks at least. He looks every bit as strong as what you would expect someone that size to be.
Well, again, it's kind of insane to sit there and compare him when we're playing Grambling. Say, oh, look how dominant he is. But what we can do is we can say, hey, when Emory Jones was right tackle and Miles Frazier was playing guard, we didn't get that kind of push.
No.
But literally, the minute that Hurd came in the game, Emory Jones slid to guard, which is his natural position, and all of a sudden, I mean, every time I saw Hurd walking back to the huddle, he was like definitely the farthest lineman downfield because he's just pushing guys back.
Bowling them over.
Yeah, and I mean, the holes they were creating with Jones at guard and him at tackle, I mean, you and me could have run through. I mean, you would have probably sprained something, but...
I haven't sprained anything in a little while, man. Come on, I'm hitting my prime again.
But yeah, that was something that I was looking forward to seeing, and we saw it. And now we just have to see, as we go forward in SEC play. I mean, I would expect he's going to take over that position.
I would hope so. I would assume that's why you inserted him as early in the game as you did. That would be my guess. And he's going to pretty much be what Campbell was for us last year. That's it. He's the guy now.
Yeah, we have a precedence there with Will Campbell last year and Emory Jones. Emory Jones was more on this timeline where he didn't start game 1. I don't even think he started game 2, but he got in pretty quick. And once he did, they couldn't keep him out of the lineup. And I think we're going to see the same thing with Hurd. I sure hope so, because he looked dominant.
Yeah, man, it was really nice. Even if you want to say the stats because it's versus Grambling, but I even like the distribution of the ball in the running game. We weren't reliant 100% on Jaden Daniels as our runner. I mean, we had a couple of guys with double-digit carries, and plus you had your Josh Williams had a decent amount. Noah Kane got in late, got some runs. Whereas Woody Daniels ended up with 5 carries, I think, total.
I don't know. You the stat man.
I believe it was 5. One of those was a sack. So 4 rushing attempts. I think that's more in line with what you would expect from your quarterback when you have a running type quarterback.
I mean, if you're not going to run QB power, which I will maintain until I die, that if you got Jaden Daniels, you should be running QB power. But they're not going to do it. So, if they're not going to do it, I don't want him carrying the ball 10 times a game.
Right. Correct. I don't know about you, but I really like the way Logan did.
Yeah. So I like the way they used the personnel. Logan Diggs started the game at running back after not being available for Florida State due to he was coming off that injury and wasn't able to practice at 100% according to Brian Kelly. But yeah, he looked phenomenal.
Yeah, and again, it's Grambling, but he just looked to be on a different level than everyone else. And everyone else was also playing against Grambling. And I can't really find the right style-wise, the right comp for his past LSU backs, but
I got one.
We played these types of games. Okay, who you got?
Tyrion Davis-Price.
That's a good one. Same number. Also helps. Roughly about the same build, looking like it on TV.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I can go with that.
Power, but he's got some burst.
Yeah, he's got some speed. He's got the spin move. He needs to work on his vertical because, he didn't even get as high as the guy's face whenever he was trying to hurdle him.
Yeah, but as opposed to what Jaden Daniels did the week before against Florida State when he tried to jump over somebody, Daniels went backwards. Diggs still fell forwards.
Right, yeah, because Diggs at least got his feet into the guy's face mask, whereas Daniels put his chest into the guy's face mask.
Yeah, that was ugly. But yeah, I thought Diggs looked good, and then so he got a couple of series where they really just featured him, scored his first touchdown as an LSU Tiger, and then the next possession, here's Caleb Jackson, true freshman.
He ended up with 11 carries. He had a pretty good game, too.
Well, yeah, it was like they let him have a couple of series, just like they did with Diggs. And, Josh Williams was involved, and like you said, Noah Cain kind of closed it out. So what you got to do when you're playing a Grambling is look at how they compare to, say, Josh Williams, how they compare to Noah Cain. And I thought those two stood out.
I think they separated themselves. Obviously, we want to see it against someone else this coming weekend. Be a real good weekend to go ahead and show themselves. But you know what you have in Josh Williams, and Josh Williams is as steady as it gets, and I'm a big fan of his. I don't see Josh Williams as a guy that you can just rely on and have your offense really lean on, whereas it looks like Diggs could be that guy for sure, and Caleb Jackson isn't that far behind him.
No, it didn't look like it. And one thing I watched with Diggs was ball security. And, again, we're playing Grambling, but I watched how he carried the ball when he was approaching contact. And I was pretty impressed.
He's a beast.
He's fast, too.
Yeah.
He's fast.
And he's got that cute little spin move. He's got a couple of little jukes and jives. I mean, he's got pretty much everything he needs.
Yeah, both of them similar build, too. They're both, 6'2" something. I mean, they're not small guys.
Diggs is 6'1", 215, and
Jackson may not be 6 foot.
No, Jackson's listed at 6 foot, 225.
Wow, I didn't realize he was that thick. Well,
that's thick.
He's got some speed to him. He's got a lot of burst. Pretty impressive. He also got his first touchdown as an LSU Tiger.
He got 2 of them, actually.
You got to get the first one first.
True. Good point.
But yeah, I was impressed with those guys, and combine them with Lance Hurd, with Emory Jones at guard. I'm thinking we might have found something there that would be helpful. If you got a running game, that's going to open up the passing game. And that's what I think we struggled with against Florida State. We could not establish a running game, and they just started pinning their ears back.
That and what we still need to see from Jaden Daniels, which we talked about in the preseason, and we didn't see it against Florida State, is I need to see Jaden Daniels pulling the trigger. And this game obviously wasn't one that you could really learn whether or not he will because, our guys were 15 yards behind everybody else, so it's not really, a couple of those I might have been able to even complete.
Saw some different guys in the receiving core. Kyron Lacey had a rough game against FSU. He did start the game. He did not start against FSU, but boy, he had a rough game. He started against Grambling, and he played much better. Malik Neighbors is Malik Neighbors. But how about Chris Hilton?
That dude is fast, man. He got on the board. He had that one over the middle, somewhat over the middle, I guess as over the middle as you could expect coming from JD.
Yeah, he was wide-ass open. But JD hit him in stride, which is one of the problems he has when it comes to throwing over the middle or really even throwing the sidelines, but going over the top, is he's hesitant to do it. And I said on a forum, he's allergic to the part of the field that might have a safety in it.
Yeah, which good and bad. He doesn't turn the ball over because of that, but he also doesn't take the chances that you need to take.
But the one with Hilton, I don't remember which side of the I don't remember which side of the field it was on because I didn't actually see that touchdown. But yeah, he was so wide open. I saw the replays, and oh my God,
both the one to Hilton and the first one to Brian Thomas Jr. were both going into the north end zone.
Okay.
And both were absolutely wide open.
Yeah, they were closer to Baker than they were the safety. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. At least Zachary, for sure.
So, it is what it is. Mason Taylor sprained his ankle, I believe, is what Brian Kelly said. Mac Markway, true freshman, came in, looked really good. That dude's a unit.
Yeah, he looked very good.
I mean, he is put together for a freshman. According to Brian Kelly, Mason Taylor is probable for this week's matchup against Mississippi State. So far, with Brian Kelly doing his NFL-style injury report, there are people that he doesn't mention that wind up not playing, and then we find out later, they're injured, like Logan Diggs against Florida State. But here's what I've gathered so far with 2 weeks of hearing Brian Kelly give this NFL-style injury report, is if he says you're probable, you play. And he said Mason Taylor was probable. So we'll see. Hopefully that's correct. But I did like what I saw out of Mac Markway. Saw a little bit of Pimpton. Not much, but I did see him block. And I was like, okay. That was when I rewatched the game. And I saw his one catch. It looked like it actually surprised him. That came from Ricky Collins.
Yeah, I guess that would be somewhat surprising too. So, if I was out there.
Yeah, it was a little strange play, and it was like a last minute Collins like, here, and threw him the ball. He caught it, didn't gain much because he was not like he hit him in space or anything. But anyway, we did get to see Pimpton. We'll probably see him more and more as the year goes on. But yeah, Markway is the one I came away impressed with in the tight end room after Mason Taylor went down.
Yeah, he played well.
McGowan played. Everybody played. All right, so that's the offense against Grambling. On defense, man, first couple of drives, I was like, we might as well write this season off.
Yeah, it was really bothered me. We can't really knock the secondary either because I know y'all missed a lot of the beginning of the game because of whatever was going on with the TV situation. But, I mean, shit, we had guys that were literally could have been called for pass interference. They were all over guys, and they still made plays. So sometimes you got to just tip your hat to the other team. But this was Grambling. You don't expect them to be the ones making these plays.
Okay, but it wasn't the passing plays, because I agree with you. I haven't rewatched the game. Denver Harris got mossed. But that doesn't mean Denver Harris made a bad play. I mean, he was on the guy.
The one you missed on their first drive, Zy Alexander, was even more all over his receiver than what Harris was.
My problem wasn't that. My problem was it's 3rd and 15. They just hand the ball off, and they pick up like 25, 30 yards.
Well,
what the hell?
When you're dropping 15 people into coverage, you have a little lane there.
Yeah, and that's been my problem with the defense is it's mostly scheme.
I'm not sure what we're trying to do. I really don't. There was a couple of times Saturday night and we talked about it after Florida State, how often they were rushing 3 or 4. Shit, there was a few times Saturday night we rushed 2 on passing downs. And
yeah.
There was a time when LSU, we were DBU, so yeah, you could do that. You could only rush 2 and pretty confident that someone in the backfield was going to make a play, and I just don't see that we have the personnel to do that this year.
We don't. I mean, we did get to see Denver Harris played a lot, played pretty well from what I could see. Got a pass interference on him. I didn't think it was a pass interference.
I don't remember that play specifically, so I can take your word on that.
Yeah, I thought it was Aaron Murray was calling the game, and he didn't see it either. So, I mean, he's a Georgia Bulldog, and he was on our side, even though the other team had a big old G on the side of their helmet.
Yeah, it's basically a Georgia logo just in a different color.
Yeah, it was the scheme. I mean, they didn't do what they did to Harold Perkins in the first game. They moved him around. He only wound up with 1 tackle. But I will say this. He was more disruptive. I saw him break up 2 passes out in the flats.
They actually used him in legit true pass coverage. Whereas Florida State, they kind of used him in semi-zone type.
Well, he was a spy a lot of the time.
Yeah, he was a spy, but he also, at the risk of causing PTSD for some, he kind of did like the drop linebacker role. Whereas this game, there was a couple of times where he just straight up went and covered a guy, whether it's the guy in the slot or whatever, where he straight coverage from a linebacker.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a 212-pound linebacker. I mean, he can cover guy. He's fast. He weighs 212 pounds. And it was more of a see ball, get ball type role, but he was doing it as see running back slipping out of the backfield, get running back slipping out of the backfield. That's more or less. And he broke up a couple of passes. I didn't really have a problem with the way they used him as much, but I mean, at some point, we got to generate some pressure, like you said.
Yeah, you just got to. Between him and a Gofu, you got, I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. There's no reason why. And there's quite a few times, actually, I noticed it more so with Florida State than Grambling, where we line them up pretty much on the line as if they're going to come in and they're going to attack. It almost looked like, if you remember how Swilling and Jackson were for the old Dome Patrol for the Saints, how they would line up on the line and both of them would get after it, except we lined them up in that position and they didn't get after it. They both dropped back into zone coverage. And that's just not going to work. I mean, as good as Wingo is, and Wingo's an absolute beast, he needs help. If he's going to be the only one really pushing up the middle, then that's it. Double team him, and you still have 3 guys to block you.
Well, I think that's still a work in progress. I hope it is. I hope they work on it a lot this week. So, did you enjoy the conversation we had in the chat room on GameDayTigers.com? We were comparing the defenses of the past with this defense. Like we were comparing Lou Tepper, Malvito, 2020 Pelini.
I guess I would have to ask you to define enjoy, because I can honestly say I don't enjoy the fact that we had that conversation.
That we had to have it.
I don't think it's as bad as 2020 Pelini.
That's literally the only one that I can say I agree wholeheartedly was worse than what we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, that one was worse, and then I really think this is more of, you know what, I'm going to hope that we eventually look at this kind of like we did the Malvito year, because if you go look statistically that year, that defense wasn't horrendous. It was bad by LSU standards, but it wasn't nationally atrocious. That defense ended up somewhere around, like, I want to say like in the top 40 or so total defense, which, again, as far as LSU's concerned, that's bad. We ran the guy off for it, but it wasn't 120th like Pelini was.
God. Yeah, so we're correct in our thought that that's the one that's worse than this one for sure.
Absolutely.
But, give credit where credit's due. Yeah, we're playing Grambling, but we were playing Grambling the first 2-3 drives too, and they were cooking us.
Yep.
And
they were.
They had like double-digit yardage after that, and no points after that.
And that's the key. I mean, really, it is. It's the point. Yardage is yardage, but the points is what that's what determines who wins ball games. So I guess that's the important thing, that we did manage to keep them off the board. It is a little nerve-wracking to know that Grambling had, they kind of had their way with us for 4 possessions.
3. They didn't do shit after that. I mean, they were mostly 3 and out, or very limited after that.
Yeah, but we're going to play some teams coming up who have the horses they can basically watch film maybe and see some of the things Grambling did, what we did against them, and they'll have the horses to make us pay a lot more so than Grambling did.
Well, hopefully we watch film and see what we did to change things against Grambling. Because, again, we're playing Grambling on those first 3 drives, and we're playing them the rest of the game, and they didn't do shit the rest of the game.
Yeah, it looked basically like 2 separate games, the way it was played out. And I do intend to watch some of the game again, especially at least the first half, because I think really the second half, I don't think you're going to take away a whole lot of that. I think that was more just tinkering with personnel than anything else. But I want to rewatch it and kind of see if I can see some things and what were some of the major changes. Shout
out to your boy Greg Penn. That's Herb's guy. It's not his man crush. Harold Perkins is Herb's man crush, but he likes him some Greg Penn. I don't know how he caught that ball, but that interception he made was interesting.
Yeah. I'm not really sure if it was stuck between his stomach and his thigh, or between his 2 thighs, or what. But whatever you have to do, right?
Yeah, it looked like he caught the ball between his belly button and his left thigh. I don't know how he did it, but whatever. It all works the same. Let's talk about special teams real quick. You and I, in the season preview podcast, we basically, this and that, and I harped on Aaron Anderson a lot. Aaron Anderson, been a little bit of a letdown, muffed the punt against Florida State, and really Greg Clayton's been back there fair catching. Actually, Greg Clayton did return a couple against Grambling, but
He did.
Their special teams was atrocious. I mean, that snapper, we got a safety. LSU won 72-10, by the way. They did cover that ginormous spread.
Covered it handily, too. Man.
Yeah, and I didn't think they would after the first quarter. I'm like, yeah, we're not covering, which I didn't think we would to begin with. But yeah, I was like,
didn't either. I usually avoid spreads like that just because there's just too many things that can happen late in the game to throw off the spread. But we covered.
Yeah, easily. But yeah, they're picked up a safety on a snap that went over the punter's head and out of the end zone. But the snap before that, I noticed, man, I'm like, why aren't we trying to block this? Because the ball took like 3-4 seconds to get back to the punter. It was like floating back there to him. And I'm like, man, we could literally not even block the punt, but catch the snap.
That's one of the areas that you really typically would see a gap between a team like LSU and a team like Grambling, because a lot of times your special teamers, that's your guys that aren't quite starting quality for your offense, defense. So that's when you really see the talent gap is right there.
Yeah. So I don't know what to take from Aaron Anderson's punt returns. He had a couple of good punt returns. One of them, I thought he was going to house it. I'm sorry, Greg Clayton. Anderson did not have that kind of opportunity. After the first punt, the one that Clayton ran back a good ways, I don't know, maybe 30 yards, that was a line drive kick, went right to him. I mean, it was just so easy. Nobody was down there yet. When he caught the ball, there was nobody else in the picture.
Right.
And
which I'm glad he returned it, because so many different times in the past he would just fair catch it. So hey, I saw him run. Now I know that he is capable of running. I thought he had polio maybe, and like that's why they didn't let him run. But apparently he is capable of moving forward with the football in his hand.
You're an idiot. But yeah, so the next time they put Aaron Anderson back there, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And dude gets like 5-second hang time. Where did that come from? But anyway, special teams, to me, the star of special teams so far is Damian Ramos.
Which, I'm good with that.
I mean, he's only had one field goal attempt, nailed it, but he's had, just the other night, he hit all 10 extra points.
He had to be tired by the end of that.
Yeah, he kicked 10 extra points, and he made both the extra points he attempted against Florida State, so he's 12 for 12 on extra points and 1 for 1 on field goals. So, yeah, as far as I know, he's the star of special teams. Although, you know what I did see against Grambling? There's a number 5 running around knocking the hell out of people. Did you notice it?
Yes, I did.
His name is LaTerrence Welch.
Yep.
He's not breaking into the secondary yet, but he's hustling out there and he's hitting people. It kind of reminded me of one of your former man crushers, your most recent former man crush, wearing that number 5 and knocking the shit out of people.
Number.
Yeah.
I thought so too. He's pretty good on pace to be potentially a future man crush.
Yeah, and you probably only have Greg Brooks. I guess this is his last year, right?
Yeah, this is it. He's out of eligibility, so
yeah, you got a chance.
Next year is someone else, no matter what.
Be looking at him. Be watching. Yep. Number 5. Speaking of man crushers, how about the mailman?
The mailman?
Stamps, bro.
Okay. Yeah, well, I did not realize that was his nickname.
I just made that up.
Yeah. Well, that's why I didn't freaking know. Can't expect me to read your mind all the time.
Yeah, Stamps got a lot of playing time.
He had a couple of breakups too.
Yeah, he looked good. He's so far as advertised. As far as the defensive secondary, we got spots we're gonna have some competition at. Denver Harris, like I said, got to start, played quite a bit, and then Ashton Stamps came in and he looked good. I don't know. You got Zay Alexander. I think he's still gonna be a starter. I don't know about Deuce Chestnut.
I didn't actually even see him. Did he play Saturday? And if so, it must have been only sparingly.
I don't know if he did, but he did not look good against Florida State.
Yeah, I agree.
He looked a tad slow. He did get an interception against Florida State, but the ball was literally thrown in his gut.
And I got to pat my man crush on the back on that play because he blitzed.
Yeah,
under pressure and forced a bad throw.
Yeah, it's amazing how when you put pressure on the quarterback, they make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, we played 80 people. I believe that was the actual number. If not, it was over 80. Saw a little bit of Whit Weeks and West Weeks. Whit is the true freshman. West was here last year, number 33.
Right.
Well, Whit's wearing number 40. He's a unit.
Okay. I'll be honest with you, the second half, I really wasn't following the intricate details anymore, so I didn't really see a whole lot of what he did.
It's actually the reason I rewatched it, was to go back and watch nuances like that. And yeah, both Witt and West Weeks. The other guy that is listed as probable, but got dinged up against Grambling, is Omar Spates.
Okay.
Did you notice that little nuance that he was in street clothes in the second half?
I did not.
Yeah. According to Brian Kelly, he's probable, but yeah, he was in street clothes in the second half. He was over there standing by John Emery, both of them in street clothes, and Witt and West Weeks were out there running around knocking heads.
Yeah, so hey, next man up. That's the way this used to be. Here at LSU, especially on the defensive side, we were known for that. I mean, how many guys have we had in the past who stepped up and played in place of someone who was injured, in place of someone who was coach's decision not to play?
Oh, Ron Brooks.
Yeah, that was actually the man I was thinking of personally there just now. I mean, that's what LSU's defense has always been, and it's good to see that that's happening still. Not everywhere, but at certain positions, apparently it is.
So I guess the preseason podcast that we did where I was talking about the depth and the elite depth is true in most positions. It's just not in the defensive secondary right now, although we did, like I said, see Ashton Stamps, Denver Harris, saw Terrence Welch out there. There's pieces there. That's the unit, though, that's probably the furthest away. But yeah, linebacker, I was pretty impressed with those guys. Greg Penn had a good game. Harold Perkins is Harold Perkins. Not really worried about that. Defensive line, man, we talked about it in the preseason podcast with Jordan Jefferson and Jalen Lee. Both of them dudes made plays the other night.
Yes, they did. Both of them got their names called at the same time on the play-by-play on TV, and kind of, caused me to shudder a little bit just because of the names. But I think this could be a better Jordan Jefferson, Jay Lee combo than what we had back then.
Yeah, Jay Lee got him a little fumble recovery there. Both of them look good. Braden Swinson continues to really pop on that defensive line, and I'm not trying to skip over Mekhi Wingo. Mekhi Wingo's the best thing we got going on, period.
He is.
I'm talking about guys that we didn't know, like a Braden Swinson, a Jordan Jefferson, a Jalen Lee, Witt and West Weeks. All those guys popped. There was a certain guy that played for the first time since the first game of last year, Mason Smith.
Yeah, and he was on the field for sure, but I can honestly say, I can't really say that he did anything that caught my attention.
He did something that caught my attention. He played like a guy that hadn't played since the first game of last year.
He needs to bounce back. He needs to be full health. He may still be a little timid on that knee. I don't know, because like I said, honestly, I knew he was in there, but he didn't catch my eye, which I guess is also a good thing, because it means he didn't do anything bad. Yeah,
he wasn't very disruptive, wasn't very aggressive. Looked like a guy that hadn't played in over a year, coming off an ACL and a sprained ankle. And, only one way to go from here is up. Hope to see that. I did not expect him to come in. I think LSU fans are so enamored by this guy. And I mentioned it. I mean, guy's got about 20 tackles career at LSU. Now, we know that, he was a 5-star for a reason. He popped his freshman year in limited action. He looked like a freak. And then he got injured the first game of last year. So we didn't see him for a year. And I guess we thought we had Glenn Dorsey coming back.
I mean, that is the way he is hyped. That's a good comp to the hype. Except, he obviously hasn't produced like Dorsey.
No, I mean, it's not warranted. I do think he's going to be a great player at LSU by the time he's done here. And I hope he has a great rest of the season and goes in the first round of the draft. I hope he does, because that means LSU did really well. But got to give the guy a chance to come back. It looks like he's carrying some bad weight, which, looks better than most defensive tackles. But this guy was chiseled, and he doesn't look like that right now. He looks a step slow, and it could be the timidity, or it could be, he put on some bad weight and just isn't there yet. But he looked rusty.
Yeah, which is expected. And, you talk about chiseled. If you remember right, his freshman year, we talked about he was one of the guys who looked like the Alabama players do.
He was one of the only ones.
Right, and no, he doesn't look like it yet, but I think he will before the end of I think he'll get around.
Yeah, the guy who looks like the Alabama players if you want to use that comparison from a couple of years ago, is Lance Hurd.
Yeah.
Good God, man. All right, so that's the first couple of games. LSU's 1-1, but you know what we are? 0-0 in the SEC.
That's the important part.
And the SEC is interesting, especially the SEC West.
Well, yeah, let's call it the West, but I'm going to lump Florida in there too, just because we play them. None of them have impressed me yet.
No.
I mean, nobody. Alabama with a loss to Texas, and really and truly, it was a legit loss. It wasn't a fluke.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even as close as the score indicated. Texas whipped their asses up and down the field and looked like the better team all night.
Yeah, and Utah did that to Florida. I mean, really and truly, Tulane had every opportunity in the world of beating Ole Miss, and then they kind of just didn't seal the deal.
Was this not the craziest weekend ever watching football? I found myself rooting for Tulane, Miami, and then an Alabama-Texas game. Of course, I was rooting for the Sinkhole or the Meteor, but I was like, I don't know who to root for here because I don't like either one of them. And I said it on the forum after that game of how conflicted I was. But what settled it for me was watching the Alabama fans streaming out the tunnels with 3-4 minutes left to go in the game with their heads hung down. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a good thing. It felt like 2019. My wife and I were there, and we watched that happen in person when Alabama fans just vacated the premises, and it got deathly quiet in there. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. It was almost spiritual.
I can imagine. And you mentioned Miami. Miami took out A&M. Really and truly, I did not see the end of the Cal-Auburn game, but first 2.5 quarters for sure, most of the third, Cal was in complete total control of that game. They just couldn't score when they got to the red zone.
Yeah, they looked like LSU in the first half of the Florida State game. They just couldn't score.
They spent the whole game getting down to, right around between the 20 and the 30, and just couldn't get it past that.
Yep.
So Auburn did come back and end up winning. And shit, even Kent State. Arkansas finally scored on a return late in the first quarter, maybe it was early second. I don't remember exactly when, but Arkansas really struggled against Kent. So
Tennessee struggled with Austin Peay.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I mean, let's step out of the SEC. Okay. What about Clemson?
Yeah.
I mean, they got boat raced by Duke.
They got smoked by Duke.
And then they come. I don't even know who they played. It was somebody probably a little better than Grambling, and really, really struggled.
Yeah, it was Charleston Southern, and they did end up pulling away, but it was 14-14 at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like college football is kind of upside down right now. Georgia didn't exactly run away from Ball State early. Ohio State, Youngstown State, I believe is who they were playing. They didn't blow them out.
I think, and, I don't know, maybe we are now finally a few years in seeing what we thought NIL had a chance at doing and somewhat leveling the playing field.
Or better yet, the portal.
Yeah, well, I mean, the portal as well, but also I think the NIL that's part of it. It's got to be something's, I don't know. I'm not sure what it is.
I mean, the reason I say the portal is because you take a guy like, okay, LSU is on a different level than Arkansas, okay?
Yeah.
But you throw Dwight McGlothern on Arkansas, they got a better secondary than we do. We could really use a Dwight McGlothern right now.
Yeah, and which, if you think about it, it's pretty much the exact opposite of last year. Last year, we ended up with a decent secondary because, well, we had a couple of guys from Arkansas playing for us.
Exactly. And so there's this flip-flop. I mean, you look at a guy at a great program like, say, Ohio State, where their quarterback room is stacked. I mean, they got a first-round draft pick's going to be starter. And this other guy who's really, really good, but nobody knows it, wants to come play ball at LSU, and you wind up with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And who was Texas's quarterback that just beat Alabama?
Quinn Ewers is still there, isn't he?
Yeah. And where did he come from?
He was an Ohio State guy, wasn't he?
He was at Ohio State.
I didn't remember if that was a recruiting thing or...
Yeah, no, he was at Ohio State. He just didn't stay past 1 year and goes to Texas. And now, the last two quarterbacks to beat Alabama in Bryant-Denny, Joe Burrow and Quinn Ewers, both former Ohio State quarterbacks.
Nice.
That's the portal.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking more along the line of, obviously you'll have those, but I don't think those are going to be quite as common. More, I guess McLaughlin is kind of one of those. But I'm thinking there's going to be guys at schools, let's call it your group of fives, who are going to make that coming out of high school attempt to go and play for one of the big boys. And when they don't quite make it, they're going to go back down to the school that they probably should have been signing with out of high school, which will be these group of five or very high-end FCS schools. And you're going to see those schools really starting to turn it around and become better because of it.
Right. So it's interesting. The world in which we live, college football, is kind of upside down right now, and it's, I don't know, it has a chance to be fun. We're going to have fun with it anyway. So this weekend, we got Mississippi State on the road. It's not the air raid Mississippi State that we've been seeing the last few years. Rest in peace, Mike Leach.
Yep.
And we lost a couple of Pirates in the last year, bro.
Yeah, true.
Jimmy Buffett now. But yeah, this is Zach Arnett, and they're a running team. They still have Will Rogers, man, and they're a running team.
Damn, he's still there?
Mm-hmm.
What is he, a 45th year senior?
So I'm going to ask you this, and I think I know what your answer is going to be because you're not a dumbass. What are you expecting out of this? I mean, you are a dumbass, but not with regards to this question. What are you expecting the result of this game to be? LSU on the road at Mississippi State. 11 a.m. start.
In the Jefferson Pilot time slot. I expect this to be basically the game that we complain about, well, every other year. It's not going to be a thing of beauty. It's probably going to be an ugly game. This is going to be one of those games that Big Ten fans point to and say, see, the SEC sucks. It's not going to be pretty football, and we'll walk away with a 13-point win, give or take.
Yeah, I'm not making that prediction, but yeah, exactly what you said before that. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be close. And, you know, I mean, it's
sloppy.
Pick 'em. Whatever.
Yeah.
I will make the prediction. I think LSU wins by a touchdown. That's what I'm expecting. And, it is what it is. That's Mississippi State in Starkville at 11 a.m. I mean, that's what you're going to get. That's, like I said, you're not a dumbass. You've seen that story play out before, and it doesn't matter if Jordan Jefferson or Brandon Harris is your quarterback, or Joe Burrow, or Jaden Daniels. That's what you're going to get.
I was in Starkville when Burrow went. That was, we won handily, but it wasn't beautiful.
Yeah, we didn't win as handily as we did against all the other teams we played that year because it's Mississippi State on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and I can tell you now, there is nothing to get excited about in Starkville.
Nope. All right, well, that's where LSU is heading. SEC season begins. Everything we just talked about with the team struggling around the country just goes to speak to what we always say. These preseason polls are useless until about, in my opinion, mid-October. But you could say October 1st, but you always say October 1st is when college football season really starts.
Yep, absolutely.
And we're getting close. We're going to start seeing some SEC games. Man, football season is really here now.
Oh, it is. The weather, I know it didn't for you, but the weather here absolutely took a shift today. It feels like fall.
We
a little bit earlier.
We didn't get over 100 today, so it's definitely fall.
I didn't cross 70 today.
You're practically in Canada, so I get it.
Yeah, true. But still, it's
north of I-20, right?
Yes, I am north of I-20. Why do you have to keep bringing that up?
Yeah, no, I'm still south of I-10, so fall happens, I don't know, right now, I guess. But yeah, we didn't get over 100 today, so good times.
Yeah, but we're it's coming around, and then the October schedule is going to be beautiful. I'm ready for it. Let's get it. Let's go.
All right, then. Well, y'all come join us over on the forum at www.gamedaytigers.com. Chat is active on game days or game nights, whatever the case may be.
Game morning this coming weekend.
Yeah. And the forum gets hopping before and right after the game especially. There's a lot going on. Doxy's got a topic, the good, the bad, and the ugly, that she took over for this year. Thank you, Doxy, for that. I have not had time. But, yeah, we got lots to talk about over there and lots of complaints. We got Big T. He thinks Brian Kelly should probably be fired, and I think all the rest of the coaching staff as well. We suck.
Yeah.
We're not going to win an SEC game, I think I saw him say.
Yeah, he said, I think our pitchers need to go to the portal. Oh, wait, that was somebody I'm sure has to be in the portal or something right now.
Should have left him in the portal. Yeah. We got to get that cat on a podcast, man. We're going to work on that. When I get back situated where I can do that, we're going to get Big T on here with us. That's going to be a good time. Y'all come join us. LSU at Mississippi State, Jefferson Pilot time slot. It's going to be a good time anyway. Go Tigers.